All right, welcome back. Okay, we have a little bit of a different format today. I didn't do a specific video for these two. I did one for this one, which some of you may have seen, where it was basically my first Hinderer that I had bought. I'd handled a few in the past, but not really bought one. So talked through what I thought of Hinderer in general. This one being an XM18 3.5 spear point Triway Stonewash Blue with the blue G10. I got two more in the meantime. This one came first, and I noticed right away that the action, I think it had been carried a little more. It actually had a different scale on it, which I don't know, it's around here somewhere. I'll pull it out at some point here. But it had been used a little more and is very smooth. I don't know if I can finger flick that one, no, but definitely a little easier to deploy than the first one. A couple people commented on the last video that these would loosen up. And then this is one I'd been looking, oh, sorry, and this one right here is an XM18 3.5 Recurve Triway Stonewash OD Green. It did come with that other scale on it. This one, spear point. So slightly different blade shapes there. And then the third one that came is an Eklipse 3.5 spear point non-flipper Triway. Working finish, so very different format from the others. And yeah, I was excited to get this because well, not very different format, but different, slightly different. I'd say more different than the other two. Same blade shape as the first one, but then Eklipse, which if you're not familiar, you're talking about a whole different frame shape. And then also non-flipper. So I think it's called, yeah, non-flipper. So this one's exciting to get my hands on. And I did notice that I can actually spidey flick or finger flick this one, which is really cool. Which if you can't do that, then you're either better be able to thumb stud flick it or something. But I've just noticed I am like, let's see if I can get it out. No, I can't do a thumb flick on this. It might just be because this one's brand new. But I can spidey flick it most of the time. I think I just like put it back a little hard there, but this one's like basically brand new. So it's not quite as worked in as the others. And that's really my only deployment method is the finger flick. So what am I noticing about them? They all operate really well. They're all getting smooth or are smooth in their own way. They're not quite as intuitive. You know, you've got a frame lock, which I mentioned in the first video. Like oftentimes you'll make a mistake when you're finger flicking a frame lock. Your tendency is to pinch so that you can push this without it slipping out of your hand, right? Because that's the natural thing when you're using a either a light switch or a push button deployment, but that if you hold that down, then you're gonna fail to deploy. So I got used to that. I've actually been tinkering with these. This has been kind of like my go-to fidget knife at my desk here. I've just been messing with these. And this one right here that's been carried the most of the group is quite smooth. So this one I did notice was quite easy to deploy compared to the blue one here, which is a little less used. And I still cannot finger flick this or thumb flick this for the life of me. But I mean, it's which is really weird because this is not hard. It's like barely takes any pressure, and yet I guess I can if I do it that way to get the thumb flick going. Maybe I can finally do it. I feel like I might actually be able to do it left-handed. Yeah, that's so weird. I cannot explain that, but it opens up fine on the left hand. I guess you're pushing it, I guess I can explain it. You're pushing it away from the detent when you're going with that thumb, whereas if you're going with this one, you're kind of pushing it into it, I guess. And I've seen people do these with no problems. I don't know what is going on with that, but I cannot deploy this one with the thumb on that hand, but I can get it out on that hand. So that is just super weird to me. See if it's the same on the other one. I can barely get it out on this one. It's much harder and definitely not going to be doing it on that. So I'd say that's my biggest gripe so far with the Hinderers is deployment inconsistency. Love the look of this one and the fact that I can oftentimes get it out with the finger flick. Right now it seems to be kind of sticking up again. This one's like brand new, so I don't really expect it to be super smooth yet. But I wonder if that one, how that one is lefty. Yeah, that one I can count. It's not much. It's not as good as, not as easy as that one to get out, but it's as easy as that one. And I'm not trying to go all the way because I'm doing this while looking through the camera. And that is, I've found a somewhat perilous thing to do if I'm not really focused on what I'm doing. Yeah, it's interesting. That's my biggest concern so far with the Hinderers is what it takes to actually start to get them to like work from like a deployment perspective. I think you can hear that. And I don't know if this one didn't come on bearings. I think it is on bearings though. See if I can tell really quickly. Not the best lighting right now versus like, you know, the Demcos, they're just so easy. You can, I don't know, they're just so easy to deploy. And I'm trying to think of, you know, even if you go grab just a Hogue Deca or something like that, just, you know, they do what you tell them to. So that's same thing with the Benchmade bug out. It's just that the fact that it's that hard to deploy, I don't know. I guess with the finger tab, with the flipper tab, you're fine because you're going to get that out consistently. So I guess if you love flippers, then I think they're recommendable because that's what you're going to probably be doing with it, unless you're, you know, you've got a lot more thumb strength than I do. And I, you know, for physical background, you can see I've got kind of skinny fingers, but wrestler, power lifter. At one point I power lifted over 500 pounds on the deadlift. That's pure hand grip strength. This is a long time ago. It's been, what year is that? 2004. So that was a long time ago for sure, 18 years ago. But it's also, was it 2004? Now I gotta think about that. 2006. So call it 12 years ago or something like that. Doing really bad math right now, as you could see, 14, 15, 16 years ago. Anyway, my general thought is they're really nice fit and finish, but the action is both satisfying but a little frustrating because they're such cool knives. Like, they've got such a nice little weight to them. They're beautiful. They're made in the USA. There's so much to like. And yet there's this part of me that just feels like they could do a better job of trying to prioritize deployment method. So there's the translucent green, they call it. I've seen it called translucent green or jade scale. The look of it was very cool actually, but I just wanted to move it back to fit to the OD green factory look for this video. You can see it would kind of stand out too as being a little abnormal. So I did put this up for sale on Blade Forum. If you're interested, feel free to let me know. I think I put it up there for 45 bucks. These are 65 new, or 64 I think is the number. You can see it was maybe lightly carried at the most. You can see it inside here, which you can't see when it's installed. There's a little dirt in there, but it's cool. Especially, I just did a video today actually of the translucent green in the Demco I just picked up. And it is really cool in this kind of lighting where it kind of lights up when you're using it. You can't really see it as much at this current angle where I am, but check out my shorts and you'll see this sweet camo LMAX 8020S in there, and the way it kind of lights up around the edges. I'm not big on camo, but I'm overly, I wanted this more for the variation and show that Demco did this for the collectability of it. But I have to say, like, the jade part of it ends up making it look really cool, even though I'm not into that kind of tactical look. So Maybe a quick size comparison here. This is probably a better comparison, knife to knife. They're not quite as like wide tall as the Demco because of the shark's foot in this case, but also the just general format. But similar, and this is an 80-20S, not an 80-20.5. Fairly similar in length, but a much different design and how they accomplish what they do. So this is kind of a reverse review because most people would be comparing a Demco, which is more modern, to a Hinderer, I suppose. But yeah, this is the order in which I've come into them. So yeah, I really want to like these. That's the kind of, when I get them in hand, the fit and finish is really nice. I kind of like the mix of the G10 and the tie. I've seen people get the full tie, and that looks really cool too. But I just don't feel super good about the deployment so far, and that makes me hesitate a little bit on my love for it. But at the same time, I do kind of want to like carry it just to see how that is. I mentioned in some of the other videos that I'm open to trying to carry some knives I wouldn't normally in the past, and to make some suggestions on that. And I'll be taking up a few viewers that have made some suggestions for that. So yeah, overall, that's kind of where I'm at. It's just not my favorite knife, but at the same time, there's a lot to love about it. Or my favorite knife maker, even, I don't know. I just saw a really cool custom one in a video today that got me excited about him again. This one I do like handling because it's so smooth. I have to say, this one I really enjoy handling, this Recurve. Let me show that is very satisfying. Very satisfying, I have to say. Yeah, there is something about the way that it kind of ultimately clicks in, especially when it comes in this direction, that I do enjoy a lot. Yeah, this one's working super well. So I imagine with break-in time and stuff, it's probably a really great knife to own and operate. I'm just really frustrated with the deployment. That is just really weird to me that you can do it on one side and not the other. So I think this would be a little bit of a short one. These are the ones that I'm going to stick with for now. I'm not like going crazy on these Hinderers like I did with the Demcos, because they just don't quite fit the bill for me. I could see this from a collector perspective with some of the rare versions, finishes, and so on. This working finish is really cool to me, for instance, on this Eklipse. But for like a daily driver, it's not quite my speed. It is, let me actually flip these upside down because the light is coming in a way that might make that look kind of nice. It is a really nice like knife in a lot of ways though, so definitely appreciate that. It's kind of interesting. Are these the same? A little different? I think they're the same pretty much. They looked a little different for a second, the way the light was hitting them. And I do really appreciate also that they do these different finishes on the tie. I thought this was really cool, and I was setting them up to start the video. I was like, oh, that's kind of neat. The stonewash, the working finish, and then the stonewash blue on the tie. That is pretty neat. But $425, what do I think of that? I mean, you can get an S45 VN Demco A20S. I shouldn't say you can, I should say you might be able to get if you can find one for the same price, I believe. I think it's also $425 in a G10. You know, with the Hinderer, you're getting tie on one side, G10 on the other. With the Demco, I just think you're getting an overall superior deployment method that is just way more consistent, predictable. Blade shapes, the Hinderer seems to do a pretty nice blade shape. The spear point seems to be like the go-to, I guess, or the common one. I did mention this in my first video. In the hand, it feels good, but weird that it like doesn't go straight out, it goes down. So it's just kind of a weird feeling to me or weird setup. And they do seem to like hold a little longer than they are, which is good in the hand, but kind of weird in the use. Like I can't seem to get super well. I guess you can choke up like that, but that feels like I might get my middle finger. It does not feel like the right way to hold it. So because of the way that this is, take a look if that's like that on the Eklipse. And it's weird. I was able to deploy it a few times at the start, and maybe because of fatigue on my finger, or maybe just because it changed or something. I can't even get this one open right now with one hand. So that's interesting, right? This one doesn't have the full choil that one has, like the choke up choil. Is this one? Yeah, so those two are the same in terms of the choil. The Eklipse has, it's a little bit of a choke up choil, but it's a little more of a, like I describe it more as like a sharpening choil. It's kind of in between. Like this doesn't feel bad to choke up on it like this at all. You're a little on the edge there though. But this one feels like you can get up into the blade a little more. Yeah, that feels like a little easier to get up into it because you don't have the, I don't know, it's actually, they're similar size and stuff, so it's almost kind of weird that it is, but, so wait a minute. So I've got spear point, recurve, spear point, but I noticed the Eklipse spear point is actually very different than I don't think I realized that at first. The swoop on the back on the Eklipse is quite different than on the XM18. So that's interesting. Let's see if I can fit these in here. I think I'm gonna have to go on an angle based on the way I've got this set up. The blade finishes and stuff are really nice. The three I have are all 20V. I think historically they did more of an M390. I don't think there's a difference there. It's basically what's the availability to the manufacturer and the cost, but it's the same chemical makeup, I guess you would say. Is it chemical makeup or physical makeup when it's a metal? But same elemental makeup. They have the same general makeup. So yeah, really interesting knives for sure. I gotta think a little bit about what I want to keep around versus I want to get rid of. Like this feels like it met for me the full, not the full gamut. There's obviously a ton of Hinderers out there, but like this kind of gets you a little bit of, right, get a little different blade. Like I actually really like the Bowie. I was hoping if instead of a recurve, if I could have gotten a Bowie, that'd have been kind of cool. But in fact, if this one were a Bowie, I'd really be pleased with this trio. That'd be kind of cool to keep around from a collector's perspective, but from like a user perspective. As a user, I'm gonna go here or here. Like I have to go here because that one doesn't have a reliable one-handed deployment method for me. It was working at first, but at least this one I know with one hand I could do, and then it's a spear point. I do not like the recurve as much for sharpening maintenance. Aside from that, I could see it being a user for me. Like this one's just so smooth, but I don't, and you can sharpen this, like it's a curve, so it actually is not bad for sharpening, but that just makes me a little more nervous. I gotta think a little more while I'm sharpening something like that. It's just not quite as easy as a nice flat edge or a consistent round belly like that. So Hinderers got me thinking for sure. I, on one hand, kind of go to these and think about these a lot, and love the weight and many of the elements of them, but on the other hand, the deployment is like my biggest concern with these, and then they're probably not super great in the pocket. Great pocket clip in general, actually. I don't mind that pocket clip too much. It's a little strong to go over the pants, but pocket clip's pretty good. Fit and finish are pretty good. And then this one's, from a dropping perspective, pretty damn good as well. But that one, just when you're deploying it, it feels like buttery. This one's really, really nice on the deployment. So, and that one I think is just cool. Like this is what I want the knife to be kind of in a lot of ways, but then I can't figure out how to deploy it super consistently. So that is a problem for me. And I don't know, maybe if you use a different method, you could do it consistently, but I am really struggling with it. So that's a serious problem. It's funny that I was able to get it out fine on the first, I don't know, 1 or 2. I'll have to go back and watch the video. But then after that, it stopped. I stopped being able to do it. So I think that's all for now. Beautiful knives, beautiful finish, fit and finish, cool options, but still frame lock, flipper, or just frame lock without a flipper with such strong detent. Something you got to work in, which to me, like, I don't mind a day work in period, but if I got to put a lot of work in order for my knife to be good, you know, maybe put Chris reviews into that category too. That just, for me, is not really my style. I can collect a knife like that, but I can't really carry it. Here's an 80-20. What is this one? 20 CV as well. 80-20, not an 80-20S. Is like a full-size 80-20. And just, yeah, there's something so satisfying about knowing you're gonna be able to take ownership over the deployment. So appreciate you stopping by. Please like and subscribe, and I will see you on the next one. Take care.